The truth about reattracting a dismissive avoidant. After no contact. Have you ever gone no contact with a dismissive avoidant and wondered if it actually works? Maybe you were told that pulling away makes them realize your value, that silence will make them miss you, or that space will magically heal the bond. But if you've dealt with a dismissive avoidant, you already know. It's not that simple. Because no contact doesn't just trigger longing for them, it also triggers relief. And this is where most people get confused. The dismissive avoidant is not wired to chase comfort through closeness the way you are. They chase comfort through control over their emotions, their independence, and their space. So when you disappear, at first they don't panic. They breathe. They feel lighter. They tell themselves, finally I can think again. But this phase doesn't last forever, because the same wall that protects them from pain also isolates them from connection. And after the initial relief fades, something deeper begins to creep in. Emptiness. That emptiness doesn't come from missing you right away. It comes from missing what your presence represented. Stability, warmth, the emotional mirror they tried to destroy but secretly relied on. When a dismissive avoidant loses contact, they lose their emotional regulator. You were the one who made them feel safe to feel. You were the emotional thermostat in a world where their heart is always cold. So when you go no contact, the silence becomes more than distance. It becomes a confrontation with their own numbness. This is when cracks start to form. But here's the catch. Those cracks don't always bring them running back immediately. Instead, they start testing the waters. They'll like an old post. They'll send a neutral text. They might ask something random like, hey, did you ever finish that book? It's not a real invitation for reconnection. It's a safety check. They want to know, can I approach without being overwhelmed? Can I still control the emotional tone? If you respond with too much emotion, they retreat again. If you respond with coldness or anger, they'll feel justified in their story that intimacy equals danger. But if you respond with calm warmth, emotionally grounded yet self-contained, you start to disarm their biggest fear, engulfment. Because what truly reattracts a dismissive avoidant after no contact isn't your silence. It's your transformation during that silence. They don't come back for the same person they left. They come back for the version of you who no longer makes emotional safety their job. They come back when they sense that being around you no longer threatens their autonomy. So the real secret isn't about waiting long enough. It's about becoming different enough. Think about it. Avoidants don't fear love. They fear dependency. They fear the moment when someone's happiness becomes their responsibility. So if your no contact period was filled with resentment, waiting, and analyzing, then emotionally you're still attached. You're still energetically chasing. And they can feel that, even through silence. But if you use that time to rebuild your self-worth, to reconnect with life, to stop making them the center of your emotional world, then you shift the entire dynamic. The moment they sense that your peace no longer depends on them, that's when their internal alarms quiet down. Because now being close to you doesn't feel like losing themselves. It feels like gaining something rare, a connection without pressure. Now let's go even deeper. A dismissive avoidant often experiences relationships as emotional intrusions. They've spent their life protecting their space from people who they believed might consume it. But they're also haunted by loneliness. This internal contradiction keeps them stuck in a loop, wanting closeness, fearing it, sabotaging it, then yearning for it again. So when you disappear, yes, they initially feel free, but freedom without meaning becomes emptiness. And that emptiness is what eventually pulls them back, but not toward just anyone, toward someone who feels safe and sovereign. You must become that, the safe harbor, not the emotional storm, the independent soul, not the emotional sponge. That's when your presence becomes magnetic again. Not because you're trying to get them back, but because you've stopped needing them to complete you. Let's talk about timing, because this is where most people make the mistake. After no contact, people often break silence too soon, hoping to spark something. But if the avoidant still perceives emotional pursuit, they'll interpret it as pressure. The best approach isn't to reach out with words, it's to reach out with energy. That means your actions, your online presence, your lifestyle should all communicate one thing: peace, not pain; growth, not grief. A dismissive avoidant is drawn to people who mirror the calm they're chasing but can't maintain. So if your vibe screams, I'm thriving, instead of I'm waiting, you start to rewire the emotional pattern between you. Silence, when paired with emotional strength, becomes your most powerful message. But let's be honest, not every avoidant comes back. Some stay in denial for years. Others replace you with distractions, work, hobbies, even new relationships. Yet here's the truth they can't escape. No new person can erase the emotional depth they once tasted with someone who truly saw them. Because dismissive avoidants crave understanding, even if they can't handle it. And the memory of being emotionally seen by you will haunt them more than your absence ever could. Over time, they start to wonder, why did I feel safe with that person in ways I don't feel now? That's when they circle back, not to relive the past, but to re-experience that emotional resonance they can't find elsewhere. So what should you do if they come back? The key isn't to reward their return with immediate access. Instead, set the tone through your boundaries. Avoidance tests your strengths subtly. They'll see if they can reconnect without accountability. Don't let them. Warmth without weakness, that's your power. Respond but don't overgive. Be open but don't over-explain. Show that your door is unlocked, not wide open. They must earn emotional safety with you this time. Because if you fall into the same pattern of over-functioning, they'll retreat again. But if they sense that your love is no longer self-sacrificial, they'll start to feel something new. Safety in your independence. And that's the emotional paradox that pulls a dismissive avoidant closer. Now let's address the emotional truth behind why no contact can work, but only if it's done with the right mindset. True no contact isn't a strategy to make them miss you. It's a sacred pause to reclaim your emotional power. It's the space where you stop chasing validation and start building self-trust. It's the point where you shift from, I hope they come back, to, if they come back, I'll know how to lead differently. That shift is magnetic because confidence is what avoidants secretly crave, but rarely find in a partner. They crave someone emotionally intelligent enough to love them without drowning in their distance. Here's the paradox. The more you detach from needing them, the more emotionally safe you become in their eyes. The less you seek reassurance, the more intriguing you become. Because to a dismissive avoidant, emotional neediness feels like danger, but emotional groundedness feels like home. So when they finally reappear, don't make it about reconciliation. Make it about redefinition. You're not returning to the old relationship. You're inviting them into a new emotional standard, one where both of you can breathe. If they're ready, they'll sense it. If not, you'll walk away knowing your worth doesn't depend on their healing pace. In the end, reattracting a dismissive avoidant after no contact isn't about playing hard to get. It's about becoming hard to lose. Because the truth is, avoidants don't chase people. They chase peace. And if you've learned how to create that peace within yourself, then you become the one thing they've been running from and running toward at the same time. Emotional safety without emotional control. That's what makes them curious again. That's what makes them regret. And that's what, over time, can make them reach out. Not from fear of losing you, but from the realization that they've never truly found someone like you. So if you're in that silence now, wondering whether your dismissive avoidant will ever return, stop asking when, and start asking who you're becoming in that waiting. Because that's the real attraction. Transformation, strength, emotional maturity. That's what makes them notice again. And if they don't come back, then your growth still wins. Because the version of you that rises after losing an avoidant isn't the same one that fell for them. It's the version who finally understands this truth. Love isn't proven by chasing someone who runs. It's proven by becoming someone who never needs to.